Okay, so welcome to Proton NMR. You will find in lab, and I'm not there because I can't make multiple videos, but you will find in lab that we keep our NMR tubes in this container. They'll be out probably in the hood for you. And so the first thing we're going to do is take one of those NMR tubes and put it here in our Erlenmeyer flask just so it has a place to be. We're going to get our sample, and we're just going to take a couple of drops of our sample . Put a couple of drops of our sample in the NMR tube. Then we are going to get some deuterated chloroform. So this bottle will also be out in the hood for you. It's deuterated chloroform, CDCl3. It already has TMS in it, so you don't have to add any additional TMS to your sample. And so you're just going to add some TMS up until, about 4 centimeters in your NMR tube. Then you will have this bottle of caps. So just open that up, take out a cap your sample so that it doesn't evaporate. Right, so now I have a cap on my sample. And I like to turn it upside down to make sure it mixes, right? Because your sample was on the bottom, and then you put deuterated chloroform in, so you want to make a nice solution. And then, of course, you're going to put your tag, which has your compound name or experiment name and your name on it, and poke a hole in it before, poke a hole in it now, then put your sample tube, and now you can come down the hallway to the NMR room with your sample. So now we're going to switch over to the spectrometer. And again, you saw this for the C13, but here's the NMR spectrometer. There's a little shelf there. There's the atrium windows. So it is in the back of Hodson 220. And there's the computer that's associated with it that really does all of the work. And so I'll give you a little mini view. This is the top. We are going to be using the depth gauge, which is just really a hole set to a certain depth. And then this is the lid that you're going to lift up. And this is the handle that you're going to move that controls the airflow. You're going to have air coming out first so that your sample floats on that air, and then you're going to essentially stop that air so your sample will drop down in, and then you're going to spin it. Okay? And that is the hole where this hole right here is the hole where your sample goes. And that's all you have to do. So let's see. Know how much of this you will be able to see. But we're going to take our sample, take the tag off, set it on the top. There's a box over on the shelf that says NMR spinner collar, so inside that you will find the collar. Remember, the collar has 2 sides. The bigger side will have a dot or a line or something on it. The smaller side does not. I'll try to hold it for you. Right, so this is what it will look like. You're going to take your sample and put it through the collar like that. So the top of the collar and the top of your sample are here. How far down, where you put it, that's what we use the depth gauge for. So I'm going to come over here and put this sample in my depth gauge. And then I'm going to push it down gently till it stops. And so now I know I have the collar at the right place. Now I'm going to come over here and I'm going to turn the spinning air up so the air is blowing up and you can hear it. And I'm going to take my sample and just sort of float it right there. So now I'm going to turn my spinning air 90 degrees counterclockwise, so my sample drops down into the probe of the magnet. And now I'm going to turn it another 90 degrees, put my head over there to make sure it's spinning, and then I will close the lid. So, to make sure it's spinning. And so then we'll come over here to the computer screen. You can log in using the general account, which is ChemUser. And the password is written here on the monitor for you. Type. And so now, take these gloves off. I'm going to click on the AII PNMR window. You can either do it here or you can do it down there. And that pops up for us. And now, since we are running a proton, we're just going to come over here to the shortcuts and we're going to click on H1. And then we get a pop-up window about where we want to store a file. I would like you to store it in organic. And I would like you to use your initials, so my initials. And then H because you're running a proton. 21 because you are running, because this year is 2021. And then enter or save. The next pop-up window you get is about TMS. Right, so if you didn't put TMS in your sample, you could use no reference. If you did put TMS in your sample, you would use auto zero TMS. Since there is already TMS in our deuterated chloroform, we should have some in there, so we will auto zero on that. Then you get a choice of how many scans you want to run. Usually I select 4 if my sample has enough material. Click OK. And now the spectrometer will set the receiver gain, which is not good when it's red. So it'll immediately change that value to get to the right value. And then it will shim it a little bit, and then it will actually collect your 4 scans. So sit back and relax. So you can see that another window, a couple windows pop up for you, but the nuts window will open up when your sample is finished. And in the comment box, you could put either the name of what you think your product is or experiment A, B, C, or D, whatever you did. In the user box, you should put your name. And then you can click OK. And if you look at your spectrum, you can see that it has selected some peaks here for you. If you like those peaks, you can keep them on there. If you want to get rid of them, you just do Control P, and then they'll go away. And then you can see in this case that it has integrated all of these 3 peaks for us. And so, right, you can see the integration line, and that's great, except that, of course, integration is just a relative ratio. So the computer set this peak to 1. I actually know that that peak is 2 hydrogens. And so I'm going to go ahead and type ID, which gets me into the integration mode. I'm going to come over to this integral, somewhere on this integral, and I'm going to click and hold the left mouse button. And while I'm holding it, I'm going to type the letter V as in Valentine. And then this relative integral value box appears. And I think that those are the hydrogens in my molecule. There should be 2 of them. So I'm going to set that to 2 and hit enter. And then you can see that the computer, well, it says then, great, if this is 2, then this is 3, and this is also 3. So that is ready to print. I'm going to come up here to print. I'm going to make sure the printer is HT220, which it is, which is the printer in the middle of this room. I'm going to go ahead and click Landscape, and then I'm going to click OK, and it will print out the spectrum for me. So when you are finished, you can go ahead and close that window. You can close that window. You don't have to log off, because chances are someone else will be coming on after you. And then the last thing you need to do is you need to come over here and take your sample out of the spectrometer. So let's see if we can do this. So the first thing we need to do, of course, is lift the lid. The next thing that we need to do is take this spinning air and point it towards the atrium, and that stops the spin. And now we're going to slowly increase this, turning this handle towards you so that your sample now pops up. And so you can pull your sample straight up and turn this spinning air back towards the atrium so that it doesn't blow the whole time. And then close your lid. Take the collar off your sample. Put the collar in the collar box. Put your tag back on your sample and bring it down the hallway back to the organic lab. That's it.